Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us. I'm Josh.
And I'm Sarah.
And we are the Hiking Fools, guiding you through the trails of Glacier National Park with unique personal insight. This comes from our experience. Sarah and I worked there 20 years ago and have lived here in Montana for 16 years at this point, depending on when you're listening. And we're in the park almost every weekend on the on season. And then just a reminder, Glacier Park is open all year round. So you can ski, you can snowshoe, you can just sightsee. I mean, things look different. Apgar Village is all quiet and the view is just as good, if not better. I mean, these mountain peaks covered in snow are majestic and they look huge. So it's a great time to get into the park, but today, I know we're the hiking fools, but once in a while, or fairly often these days, we're climbing fools. And Glacier National Park has a lot of class 1 to 3, sometimes 4 climbs to get to the summit of one of the 234 named peaks in the park.
What do these classes mean?
Good question. When you're climbing, class 1 through 5 and maybe a little higher, I mean, class 5 is rock climbing with ropes, with belay. It's serious. You're anchored. There are pitches that are incredibly difficult. That's class 5. There are very few places in Glacier that are marked and known class 5. Class 4 is you're on all fours. You're climbing vertically, and there's some exposure or significant exposure, on either side of you.
For a long period of time.
Right. Mm-hmm. And class 3 is where we tend to stay. And there's a lot of mountains in Glacier that are accessible with no higher than class 3 climbing. And that's kind of using all fours. Sometimes you've got to bend over. Sometimes you got to reach above you. But generally you're kind of scrambling. I think a class 3 climb could be described as scrambling.
And today we're going to talk about Piegan Mountain, which I would say doesn't go above class 2. It's really just a walk up. There's definitely some effort involved in any mountain climb you do, but this one doesn't have a whole lot of technicality. So this is a good starter mountain, a little bit more involved than Oberlin, which we've talked about before, but a really, really great mountain. And it's kind of positioned in just the perfect place up near Logan Pass, and you can see so many mountains. The views are spectacular. So stay with us on our journey. We're going to take you there.
Absolutely. Yeah. Piegan Mountain, up near Logan Pass, as Sarah mentioned. It's in that area. A couple of different ways to get there. And actually, one of the ways we should say, Sarah mentioned a walk up, which in our minds and many, means quite a slope with some talus, with some larger rock that you need to navigate to get to the summit. But it's a walk up means there's no exposure, there's no danger of falling necessarily, and you can get to the summit without a lot of climbing. So this is a climb that you can scramble to.
But with any climb, it's good to do your research ahead of time. And there is always risk and danger, obviously. And so it's important on your end to, look at this online. There's great books out there. We love to reference Blake Passmore's Climb Glacier book. He's got 5 volumes, and he's usually has pictures involved too.
Absolutely.
So always do your research before you venture out and you decide to climb something. So start there first.
And we'll say it. This is, venture at your own risk. We're recommending this climb because it's so wonderful, but know your limits, know your fitness levels, know your tolerance for, danger and exposure before you go. So Piegan Mountain, like Sarah said, is in that Logan Pass area. A couple of ways to get to it. We'll start there, Sarah, because you gotta find your way. It's not easy. You can see the peak, but how do you know how to get there? And there are 2 ways. The first is from Cy Bend going to the Sun Road, and it's via the Piegan Pass Trail. And the other one is Lunch Creek, which are 2 pullouts, 2 little spots along the going to the Sun Road that you can approach this from, and they're quite different, actually.
Yeah, I would recommend. It's going to be a little bit longer, but I would recommend going from Cy Bend. It's less steep. The elevation gain isn't as extreme. And to get to Cy Bend, it's a hairpin turn along the going to the Sun Road, and it's 3 miles east of Logan Pass. So you got to go up over the pass if you're coming from the west side and go down just 3 miles. There's a couple of hairpin turns. It's very well labeled. The sign says Cy Pass and Cy Bend. So park there. There's a good number of parking spots. Look around because oftentimes the mountains are just right there where you've parked. There's mountain goats. But you kind of venture off and you follow the trail along the creek there, the Cy Creek, and then you go up through the woods for a while. And there's a couple of junctions. You just follow the sign towards Piegan Pass.
Yeah, and if you are listening to this, check out, we have an episode on the Piegan Pass hike, and that will tell you even more about how to get to the pass, which is kind of a launching point to the saddle, which then takes you to the summit. And we'll get into all of that, your journey along the way. But the two ways, Piegan Pass Trail, as Sarah mentioned, a little longer, a little less technical, but if you park at Lunch Creek and head up that direction, it's a little more off trail. And there are a set of cliffs to navigate through, and there is a couple of notches, that you need to kind of take your time and pick through.
Yeah, if you go the Lunch Creek route, you definitely need a climbing helmet. So if you don't have one of those, that's a good idea to have. We went up through a gully where there was some boulders kind of rolling down. There was another climber ahead of us. So always be on the lookout for other climbers and who's up above you, because you need to pay attention to what's falling. Wildlife will kick rocks down on you too. It's always good to have a helmet. I would say if you go from the Cy Bend route, you're probably okay. There's not anything that's too steep where rocks are going to be rolling down. Always obviously be on the lookout. And if you're hiking with a group, try to stick together. We always say that when we're hiking with more than just Josh and I, we say, let's stick together and always be talking to one another. If someone's up ahead of you and they kick down a stone, even if you're 10 feet apart, it can kick up speed depending on the size of it is, and it can be kind of painful when it wallops you. So we always are on the lookout, and communicating.
Yeah, for sure. Communication is a big deal. And we'll talk a little bit more about this, get into it, because if you're listening to this, we're guessing that you're planning to climb this mountain. And so you're well aware of some of these, specifics of climbing anyway. So mentioning that, Sarah, depending on your route, wearing the climbing helmet, you're going to want to stagger or take turns. In other words, if you're heading up a gully, let's say that you're heading up something like a chute that's got rock on both sides, and you're sort of, positioning yourself so that you can make your way up. One way is to let somebody go up through it and wait until they're fully at the top, and then the next person to come up through. You're avoiding those rocks being kicked down in a dangerous way. Another way, if you've got a scree field and it's wider, you can stagger. So no matter what level somebody is at, no matter what elevation somebody is at, there's nobody below them. And so you're kind of staggered across the mountain at your various levels so that nothing falls straight down onto anyone.
Yeah, so let's go over the stats and of each trailhead.
Sure. Yeah, the Piegan Mountain has an elevation of just over 9,200 feet. And pretty typical for a great summit in Glacier. It's got a few peaks over 10,000, 6 of those, and a lot of them are at 7,500 plus. And so this is kind of right in the middle there, actually on the higher end. To 9,200 feet, just over that is the summit of Piegan Mountain. And the two ways we mentioned, the hike, quote unquote, is about 12 and a half to 13 miles round trip, and you're going to gain about 3,400 feet of elevation. So
that's from Cy Bend.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. So you're heading out on the hike, and you're gonna, it's gonna be spread out over time. And the other route up Lunch Creek is much shorter and much steeper. So about 1.5 miles, maybe edging toward 2, but 2,800 feet of elevation there. It covers almost the same elevation in less than half of the distance. So you can picture that.
Yeah, and this mountain is right along the Continental Divide, so you can expect some high elevation scrambling going on. There is a glacier up there too, so this is, we recommend Cy Bend route, but if you are into the steep and short and you don't have a whole lot of time, then go Lunch Creek.
Absolutely. So we're getting to Piegan Pass. We're heading up toward the mountain. We're getting, toward the saddle, and we're going to let you know exactly about the approach and what other things to consider when we come back. We'll take a short break, and we'll see you then.
Ever notice how a good trail mix has all the right stuff? Nuts for energy, raisins for sweetness, chocolate because chocolate. At Freedom Bank, we've got the right mix too. Personalized service, smart solutions, and technology to bank from anywhere in the Flathead Valley or beyond. Proud sponsor of Hiking Fools, because life's better with good snacks and a great bank. Member FDIC.
Welcome back. We are the Hiking Fools, and today we're talking about climbing Piegan Mountain, and we've got you poised to tackle this summit. We've got a couple different directions you can go. We talked about that in the first section, the first segment, and now you're at the pass, and you're looking over into the Many Glacier Valley drainage.
The cataract drainage there that goes down into Many Glacier. So there's two ways to get up to Piegan Pass, and that's from Cy Bend, or you can come in from Many Glacier. So we're taking you on it coming in from Cy Bend, and you're now at Piegan Pass. Where do you go from here?
Well, you got to take a little look around. There's always a resident marmot, it seems, or a couple of those. It's just great. I think we've heard pika. I mean, there's great rock fields
Yeah, we've
here.
seen bighorn sheep through here. They often take the climber's trail that'll take you up to where you need to go, and goats. And you're staring at the back side of the garden wall there, so it's kind of cool to see the other side. But where do you access the climber's trail? As soon as you breach and you hit the pass, it's pretty close to the left side. Look to the left towards Piegan Mountain, and you'll see the climber's trail. If you don't see it, just start heading up on that. You'll eventually get to it, and you'll see it's a pretty well-marked climber's trail.
It is, and you have a destination straight ahead of you, the saddle, between a low point between Piegan Mountain and Pollock Mountain, and so you know where you're headed. And Sarah, when we're climbing, I mean, a lot of times there's a pretty well-marked climber's trail, which is great. Also, there are a lot of goat trails, which are helpful, but kind of make sure you're heading in the right direction toward your destination, because the goats will veer off and they're not thinking the same way that you are.
Yes, and actually we've seen a lot of times on this trail goats and bighorn sheep using the climber's trail, and it probably once was a game trail, and now us climbers use it. So once you're at the saddle, there's a pretty dominant cairn there. Slap a rock on it. I mean, the last time we were here, there was a mountain goat that came out of nowhere. This is a very breezy place. You're not going to want to hang around here too long. In the summertime, it feels rather well. But so once you're at the cairn, at the saddle between the two mountains, then you kind of turn and veer towards
Piegan is to your left.
Yes.
But when you come to that saddle, you're looking at the Logan Pass area and beyond. You can see Mount Jackson. It's just one of the best views ever, just based on the positioning of this mountain and the pass and the saddle. And you can that's a destination in itself. If you want to take somebody up to the saddle, it's a great destination.
Beautiful.
And
and if you're coming from Lunch Creek, Piegan Mountain's going to be directly in front of you, if not just slightly off to the right, depending on when you come up to the saddle.
Okay, these are all great ways. I was looking at our notes in our book, and we did this in 2022, and my scribble next to it was, would do this one again. And then next to that says 2023 did it. So we'll take visitors there who want to experience a summit, that have a little bit of skill and endurance, but it's a great one. Yeah,
we took our son up this too, our oldest, who was, I think, probably 11 at the time.
Yeah. There's not a lot of points of danger, especially if you take the Piegan Pass route. So Sarah, we're on our way, and as we said, there's a pretty good slope, and it's going to take some. It's a physical challenge, and you're climbing over some larger rocks. It's a nice looking talus slope, but you can see your destination, and you know which direction you're headed, and you're on your way to the summit. Once you're up there, what's the most interesting part? Right over the other side.
Oh, I love the glacier. So you got Piegan Glacier you're kind of looking down on. Be careful, there is some exposure, so don't go venturing close to the edge up there. But looking down on the glacier is pretty spectacular. It's about 62 acres. It's one of the smaller glaciers, and it sets in this little tiny cirque.
Mm-hmm. It's gorgeous. And you can see it if you take that route from Cy Bend to Piegan Pass, you can see it almost the entire time. It's got a distinct shape, Piegan Glacier does. And then now all of a sudden you're at the summit and you're looking down upon it, and it's glorious.
Yeah, and from this viewpoint, you can see several glaciers, actually. You can see Blackfoot, you can see Sperry, you can see Jackson Glacier, and Josh has the Peak Finders app. Get that, because this is a great place to break that out and use it and just do 360 views of all the glacier peaks. I believe you can see Mount Cleveland, the highest mountain in the park. You can see several different areas. I could go on and on. Can you see St. Mary Lake? I can't remember.
I believe so. Yeah, that's the beauty of it spot. Is the where it's positioned. You can see all parts of the park. So if you've visited and hiked a little bit, you can see all the different places that you've been, and it's a terrific perspective.
So Piegan Pass is also named Flower Pass for all the different wildflowers, and I'm just going to pin on that a little bit. Make sure that you're staying on the Climbers Trail, because you are now in the alpine zone, and you don't want to squish all these beautiful plants and vegetation and these wildflowers.
Respect it, protect it.
Yes. And Piegan, it's named after one of the 3 main branches of the Blackfeet Nation, and it means far robes. So a little history there. And also, we didn't get to talk about this last time when we did Piegan Pass, but there used to be a bell at Piegan Pass, and there was several different bells throughout the park. It dates back to 1926, and it was one of the 3 locomotive bells placed at a high altitude passes in the park. They were placed at these passes by the Great Northern Railroad and the Glacier Park Hotel Company. And the purpose was to mimic, that Swiss-style tradition of placing bells for trekkers. You can announce their safe arrival to the people in the valleys, or, you're coming into the next valley, ding, 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 letting you know I'm coming. But they were all removed in 1943 during World War II for the scrap metal drive. So that's kind of lame that it's a bummer, but there's other places. So Swift Current Pass, Cy Pass, and in 1929, there was a 4th added at Scenic Point in Two Medicine. But you can see the remnants of the bell if you're up at Piegan Pass. You just kind of have to meander on some of the rocks, go a little higher to your right that kind of look over, at the base of Cataract Mountain. And there's a little cement platform with some bolts where the bell used to be. But
cool. Explore a little bit. There's a ton, along this trail and all the way up to the summit. Once you're up there, a lot of people go for the trifecta. We're not talking about that today, but Pollock Mountain and Bishop's Cap are both right up there. And you could do a couple of peaks at once. A 2 or 3 peak day, as we've found, is it's challenging.
Yeah, but definitely doable. Both, those other 2 mountains are great mountains. Pollock especially is one of my favorites. Bishop's Cap requires a little bit more navigation and route finding. So again, before you venture out and decide you're going to climb a mountain, definitely do your research. That's super important. We don't want you falling and injuring yourself or putting other people in danger. So do your research ahead of time. It's so important.
That's right. And again, always wear a helmet. Always. It can't hurt to bring it. I mean, it's easy to strap on the outside of your pack. And in my opinion, I'm always talking about this. The things that weigh hardly anything but make a huge difference, take them every time. An extra pair of socks. There's no space and there's no weight, but things that weigh nothing and have a great impact, a raincoat, a rain shell, hardly weighs anything. You can stuff it down into the size of your fist, but it could save you. Yeah,
packable puffy. We've talked about that before. It doesn't weigh anything, but it gives you a little bit extra warmth, especially when you're at the top of a mountain where it tends to be windier and probably chillier. A water filter. And actually on this trail, if you take the Cy Bend route, your last place to filter water is going to be the junction between Piegan Pass and Cy Pass. And there's a little creek that runs through there and a bridge crossing. I would recommend filtering there if you're going to take that route, because you're on a 12-mile day. And if it's hot, you're going to need some water. In early season, make sure that there's no snow danger. So don't risk crossing any snow bridges or anything.
Trekking poles are a smart thing. Speaking of seasons, you probably get 3 on this hike no matter when you go. You might take off at Cy Bend or off the Sun Road and think, well, it's a nice summer day. You get to the pass and it is a windy autumn day, and you get to the summit, depending on the direction of that wind, if it's blowing up into and off of the glacier, that can feel like a winter breeze. So you got, whatever, dress for 3 seasons.
I just really, really enjoy this mountain, not only because of the views, but just all the things you encounter. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of geology, and if you're a geology nerd, check out all the mud ripples.
Oh man, the rocks coming down from Mount Cy. This is one of the coolest places to see various types of rock.
Yes. And the pikas, they love the jumble of talus at the base of Cataract Mountain, which is just before you get to Piegan Pass on your right side. You hear their little squeaks, and you can see them bouncing around in there. The gregarious hoary marmot, they often love to pose right as you're approaching the pass. At the highest point, they're right there on the big boulders, and they pose for you on top. And
This climb has everything. I mean, it's got everything you could want out of a climb. It's highly recommended, and do your research first. Blake Passmore's book is great. Don't forget, there's a free hiker shuttle. We talked about the parking, and there's limited parking at any of these hairpin turns and pull-offs on the Sun Road. So there's a free hiker shuttle. Definitely stops here. If you head up Lunch Creek, it's 1.5 miles, but it's 2,800 feet. So that's super steep. You're going to want to be ready to climb and know your stuff. And if you take the Piegan Pass Trail, it's about a 12, 13-mile round trip right in there. And you've got, 3,400 feet of elevation gain. The bend is at 5,800. The mountain's at 92. And Sarah, do you have anything more to say?
I guess I wanted to point in there, if you're coming from the east side, from the St. Mary entrance, it's about, the trailhead at Cy Bend is about 15 miles. And I would probably give yourself about a half an hour before you get there, because you're going slow either direction and traffic and stuff. So it's a full day, my friends, to get there, to take the journey and end up on the summit of Piegan Mountains. And you can see, we're going to have some great photos on our Instagram page about that goat we talked about circling the cairn at the saddle. So find that and check out our Instagram page at HikingFoolsMT to see some great photos from our recent adventures, including this one. And tune in next time. Check out more episodes online, and remember to follow us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And I'm Josh. And I'm Sarah.
And we are the Hiking Fools, encouraging you to always go.